Hello, my name is Colleen Mutimer, and today I will be presenting my cross-gendered leisure assignment. I identify as female, so for this assignment, I chose to engage in a traditionally masculine activity. I chose to host a sports viewing party with my friends at my house. I chose to watch a hockey game instead of a football game, and invited 3 of my close girlfriends over. Historically, women didn't have equal access to opportunities of playing sports, so they weren't as likely to be able to play or be interested in sports. I think this shaped the gender roles that cause men to be more interested in things like watching a hockey game or hosting a viewing party of watching a hockey game. In the past, I don't think women were as likely to be involved, maybe an attendee, but just as a +1 or some sort of thing. Maybe interest once they were there, but now it has definitely changed a little bit, at least. Current day, I think it is much more common for women to host sports viewing parties or be attendants of ones, and it's not as rare for the ones they attend to be hosted by women. I think with the adoption in society of women being part of sports, and now we have like women leagues and stuff like that, it's easier for them to be active within the activity. I think a current or recent issue that's interesting around this topic is how there are now sort of protests going on around women's leagues not making as much money as men's leagues, and the argument people try to make is that when men's leagues are watched more. However, there are some women's leagues that rake in way more viewers than the men's leagues, and they are not being adequately compensated or making the leagues much more money than the men's teams. So that's a pretty interesting recent issue. My theory on why this has changed historically over time is because of the advocacy women were starting to bring to the table, from wanting to do things that men had the rights to do, to adapting and advancing their leisure activities. I also think things like the Civil Rights Law, Title IX, being put into place helped women overcome the discrimination they were facing and not being allowed to be participants in sports and things like sports viewing. So that has definitely curved it over history. This activity fits into the traditional gender role for a couple of reasons. I think one is that typically when people are watching sports games, they get a little aggravated and excited, a little passionate, and I think you don't typically think of women acting in that way, like screaming at a TV. So maybe just not seen as ladylike. And as mentioned before, women not being able to, in the past, be participants in sports. I think my experience with the cross-gender activity related to class materials by personally as a woman allowing me to see an activity that I wouldn't typically consider or something that I would necessarily want to do, but sort of being forced to do it, I realized, oh, this is something fun that me and my friends enjoyed, quite frankly, that we could participate in more often. This experience also gave me a real-life understanding of some of the materials we have covered in class. Going through this project has made me reflect on some of historical differences, like women not even being allowed to participate in sports, to now me and my friends being able to have a leisure time at my house just watching a hockey game and rooting for different teams on a casual Thursday evening. I have not previously participated in this activity before because I have simply not felt so inclined to host a sports viewing party, especially not to more male-oriented sports such as hockey or football. I think a constraint I might have felt in the past is that as the gender role implies, that's a more manly thing to do. However, I do know friends who are very into like football teams or hockey teams, and I would undoubtedly imagine them hosting a party of their own. Honestly, the most challenging part of this activity was keeping my friends engaged. They kept trying to convince me to fake watching the hockey game, like turn it off after 5 minutes, but I was committed to watching the whole thing and rooting for a team. We did watch the whole thing, and after a while, once a team scored and we had picked who we were rooting for, it was a little bit easier to keep their attention because we got competitive. Other than that, I didn't really have any struggles. The only other thing would be I didn't have cable to watch a football game, so I had to find an old hockey game on YouTube. I would say the main insight into leisure I gained would be applied to both genders, and that's just that you shouldn't stop yourself from enjoying an activity or engaging in activities simply because of the societal gender standards we have placed around them. I actually had a hard time picking out of the male activity list because I found I do engage in a lot of the activities regularly or more frequently than hosting a sports watching party, so this is what I ended up with to try and gain some genuine perspective. I would definitely like to participate in this activity again, but I don't know if I realistically will just because I don't have any sports teams I am a major fan of that I would host a watching party. But watching the hockey game was really fun, and it did make me want to go watch a live hockey game because I think it would be even better in person. But I don't know, maybe I'll get super into hockey after this and have host parties with my friends all the time. I would definitely also recommend this activity to somebody who is the same gender as me. I had a good positive experience overall, and I would be even more likely to encourage somebody as the same gender as me who is a fan of a sports team because I think they would enjoy it even more. Overall, I think this was a highly beneficial activity. I gained a lot of insight into the gender roles, and having a real life experience definitely helped embed some of the realizations I gained throughout the coursework of this class. I also had a lot of fun doing it, inviting my friends over, and here's a little chant I recorded of them cheering for their hockey team and a picture of them. One's missing because she wasn't there yet, but yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Leafs, 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 Leafs.